My niece spread vicious rumors that I was having an affair to destroy my marriage. My sister laughed it off. "She's just being dramatic," she said with a dismissive wave. What she didn't know was that I'd been paying $1,400 every month for her daughter's college apartment. I called the landlord that very same day. "If she wants to be dramatic," I said coldly, "she can do it on a park bench. Terminate the lease." My wife came home at exactly 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she wouldn't look at me. Wouldn't make eye contact. She wouldn't look at me at all, as if my very presence had become something toxic, something unbearable. She walked through the front door, set her purse on the counter with trembling hands, and stood motionless in the kitchen with her arms crossed tightly against her chest. Silent tears ran down her face in steady streams, falling onto the tile floor. "Sarah, what happened?" I asked, my voice filled with concern and growing dread. She shook her head, refusing to answer. She just stood there crying, staring at the floor tiles as if they held some answer I couldn't possibly see, some truth that would explain the devastation written across her face. I'd been married to this woman for 11 years. I knew her moods, her silences, the way she processed stress and handled difficult situations. This wasn't stress. This was devastation. This was the look of someone whose entire world had just been rearranged without her consent, someone who had just discovered that everything she believed might be a lie. "Please talk to me," I begged. "Whatever it is, we can work through it together." "Were you at the Marriott on Route 9 last Thursday?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hit me like a physical blow, not because I was guilty, I wasn't, but because I understood instantly what was happening and what someone had done. I understood the calculation, the cruelty, the systematic destruction of trust. "What?" "No, I was at work," I said, confusion and anger mixing in my voice. "You know I was at work all day." "Someone saw you with a woman," she said, her voice cracking. "Dark hair, red dress. They said you were holding hands in the parking lot. They said they watched you go inside together like you'd done it 100 times before." "Sarah, that's insane," I said, my heart pounding. "I've never." "She described your car, Ethan," Sarah interrupted, finally looking up at me with red, swollen eyes that were absolutely shattered. "She described the dent in the rear bumper. She described your jacket, the gray one with the torn lining." "Who?" I demanded. "Who said this?" Sarah finally looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes made my chest tighten with rage and helplessness. Her eyes were red, swollen, absolutely shattered with pain and betrayal. "I don't know," she whispered. "Someone told Jennifer at work. Said they felt bad, that they didn't want to get involved, but their conscience wouldn't let them stay quiet." My stomach dropped because I knew. I knew exactly who was behind this, knew the pattern, the method, the particular cruelty of making up specific details to make lies feel true. My niece, Vanessa. 21 years old, with a talent for manipulation that bordered on pathological, with a history of chaos that stretched back nearly a decade. And now, apparently, a new target. Me. It took me 3 hours to convince Sarah to tell me the full story, and another 2 to convince her I was innocent. The rumor had been elaborate, professional almost. Vanessa, though I didn't know it was her yet, not with absolute certainty, had somehow gotten access to Sarah's work network through a former classmate who worked in the same building. She'd approached Jennifer Martinez during lunch, introduced herself as a family friend who was deeply concerned about Sarah's husband. She described the Marriott in meticulous detail, the parking lot layout, the color of the awning, the location of the side entrance. She described my car, a 2019 Honda Accord with a distinctive dent in the rear bumper from when I'd backed into a shopping cart 2 years ago. She described my gray jacket, the one with the slight tear in the lining that I kept meaning to get fixed but never did. She'd invented a woman out of thin air. Dark hair, red dress, wedding ring on her finger that wasn't Sarah's. Said she'd watched us from across the lot, hand in hand, disappearing into the hotel like seasoned affair partners who'd perfected the art of deception. Every detail was designed to feel true, to create just enough specificity that denial would sound like deflection, that innocence would look like calculated lies. That's how Vanessa operated. That's how she'd always operated, with surgical precision and calculated cruelty. This wasn't new behavior. She'd been like this since high school, when the chaos first started becoming impossible to ignore, impossible to dismiss as teenage drama. Freshman year, she spread a deliberate rumor that her math teacher, Mr. Harrison, had made inappropriate comments about a student's body during class. The school launched a formal investigation. Harrison was immediately suspended pending review, his reputation destroyed overnight. 3 weeks later, Vanessa casually admitted she'd made the entire thing up because he'd given her a C on a test she hadn't studied for. Harrison was reinstated, but he never recovered from the accusation. He quit teaching the following year and moved out of state, his career and passion destroyed by a lie. Sophomore year, she told a group of friends that a classmate named Ashley Bennett had been secretly hooking up with Ashley's stepbrother. The rumor spread through the school like wildfire, growing more salacious with each retelling. Ashley was ostracized, called terrible names in the hallways, had her locker vandalized with cruel slurs. She transferred schools mid-semester, unable to bear the weight of a lie she couldn't escape. The story wasn't true. Ashley didn't even have a stepbrother. Junior year, Vanessa told her own mother, my sister Michelle, that her stepfather Richard had hit her. She showed bruises she'd given herself, told a tearful, convincing story about being grabbed and shoved against a wall. Michelle nearly called the police, nearly filed for divorce immediately. The truth came out 3 weeks later when Vanessa's friend, overcome with guilt, admitted that Vanessa had asked her to punch her arm repeatedly because she needed visible marks, needed evidence for her story. Richard, a decent guy who'd been nothing but kind and supportive to Vanessa, left anyway. He said he couldn't live with someone whose daughter might destroy his life on a whim, whose daughter could weaponize false abuse accusations without remorse. Every single time, Michelle defended her. She's sensitive, she would say with exasperation. She's been through a lot with the divorce. She doesn't mean any harm. But harm was exactly what Vanessa meant. Harm was the entire point. Some people start fires because they like watching things burn, because they enjoy the chaos and the power it gives them over others. I called Michelle the next morning, after Sarah had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep, after I'd spent half the night staring at the ceiling trying to understand why someone would do this to me. Michelle, we need to talk about Vanessa, I said, keeping my voice steady. What about her? My sister's voice was immediately cautious, already defensive, already preparing to protect her daughter. Someone spread a rumor to Sarah's co-workers that I'm having an affair, I said bluntly. Detailed lies about my car, my clothes, specific locations. Sarah came home in tears last night. Our marriage almost imploded because of this. Silence on the line, then a skeptical sigh. And you think Vanessa did this? The pattern matches exactly, I said. The specific details, the manipulation of social networks, That's ridiculous, Ethan, she interrupted sharply. Vanessa loves you. You're her favorite uncle. She would never do something like this to you. Michelle, I'm her only uncle, I pointed out. And that's exactly why she'd have access to details about my life, my car, my jacket, where I work, what I do. You're being paranoid, she snapped. She would never hurt you like this. She accused Richard of physical abuse, I reminded her coldly. She got Mr. Harrison suspended from his job. She nearly destroyed that girl Ashley's entire life with rumors. This is what she does, Michelle. This is the pattern. Michelle's voice went ice cold. She was a child then. She made mistakes. She's grown now, Ethan. She's matured. She's 21, I said. And she just tried to blow up my marriage for entertainment. You don't know that for certain. You have no proof whatsoever. I didn't, I admitted. Not yet. But I will find out the truth. I'm going to find out the truth, I said firmly. And when I do, there are going to be serious consequences for her actions. Don't you dare threaten my daughter, Ethan, she hissed. I'm not threatening anyone, Michelle, I said calmly. I'm simply telling you what's going to happen when the truth comes out. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking with suppressed anger. The proof came faster than I expected. Sarah's co-worker, Jennifer, agreed to meet with me the following Saturday. She was nervous, understandably so, but she'd felt terrible about the role she'd inadvertently played in spreading the rumor. She wanted to help make it right, wanted to undo the damage she'd helped cause. The woman who approached me was young, Jennifer said, stirring her coffee nervously. Early 20s, maybe. Blonde hair, very put together, very polished. She said her name was Sophie and that she was a friend of Sarah's family. Did she say specifically how she knew us? I asked. She said she'd known Sarah since college, Jennifer recalled. That she'd been at your wedding years ago. Sarah and I had met after college. We hadn't had any mutual friends at our wedding from her school days. Vanessa, however, had been there. 8 years old at the time, flower girl in a frilly pink dress my sister had picked out specifically for the occasion. Anything else you remember about her? I pressed. Jennifer thought for a moment, her brow furrowed. She had this way of talking that was really confident, really detailed. She made it sound so real, so believable. I didn't even think to question anything she said. Did she leave any contact information, any way to reach her? No, but... Jennifer hesitated, then continued. She did mention something about being in town for school stuff. Said she was staying near the university campus temporarily. Vanessa went to State University, 20 minutes from where Jennifer worked. I pulled out my phone and showed Jennifer a photo of Vanessa from my sister's Facebook page, a recent picture from her birthday celebration. Jennifer's face went pale, her hand flying to her mouth. That's her. That's Sophie. But she said. Oh my God, she lied about everything. Her name is Vanessa, I said quietly. She's my niece, and this is what she does to people. Oh my God, Jennifer whispered again, tears forming in her eyes. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. She seemed so sincere, so genuinely concerned about Sarah. That's how she operates, I said. That's exactly what she does. I thanked Jennifer for her honesty and courage, then went home to tell Sarah everything I'd discovered. Here's what Michelle didn't know, what nobody in my extended family seemed to realize about my relationship with Vanessa. For 2 years, I'd been paying $1,400 a month for her apartment, covering her living expenses so she could focus on school. The arrangement had started when Vanessa got into State University, and Michelle couldn't afford the housing costs. She'd just finalized her messy divorce from Richard, was drowning in legal fees and mounting credit card debt, and had come to me in tears at a family dinner, begging for help. I can't let her dreams die because of money, Michelle had sobbed, gripping my arm desperately. She worked so hard to get in, Ethan. She's the first person in our family to go to a real university. Please, you're the only one who can help her. You're the only one in a position to do this. I was doing well financially then. Still am, mostly. Senior project manager at a successful civil engineering firm. Solid salary, good benefits, stable career. No kids of our own yet, though we'd talked about it. Sarah and I had discussed the situation at length and finally agreed. Family helps family, especially when they genuinely need it. I paid first month's rent, $1,400. Last month's rent, $1,400. Security deposit, $2,100. I co-signed the lease myself because Vanessa had no credit history whatsoever, and Michelle's credit score was completely destroyed from the divorce proceedings. Every month for 2 years, I sent money. Sometimes directly to Vanessa when she promised she'd pay on time. Sometimes to the landlord Stephen Morrison when she forgot to make payments on time, which happened increasingly often. 8 months ago, I'd started paying the landlord directly every single month because Vanessa had let the rent slip 3 months in a row, claiming she'd been too busy with exams and projects to remember. Total investment over 2 years, $33,600 in rent alone, plus the initial deposits, plus the furniture I'd bought her when she first moved in, plus the expensive laptop for school, plus the emergency cash advances when she claimed she couldn't afford textbooks or groceries. Close to $45,000, all told. Money Sarah and I had carefully set aside for a house down payment, redirected to help family in need. And this is how she repaid me. By telling elaborate lies specifically designed to destroy my marriage. By making my wife cry in our kitchen, wondering if 11 years together had been built on deception and betrayal. I thought about calling Michelle again, about explaining what I'd learned from Jennifer, about giving her one final chance to make this right, to hold her daughter accountable. Then I remembered her response when I'd first raised my concerns about Vanessa's behavior. She's just dramatic. She'll figure it out eventually. Dramatic. That's what she called it when her daughter systematically tried to destroy my life, my marriage, everything I'd built. Fine. I'd figure it out myself. The lease agreement was in my filing cabinet, a copy I'd kept meticulously because I was the official co-signer, legally responsible for the rent if Vanessa failed to pay. I pulled it out that night and read through it carefully, looking for options, looking for leverage. What I found was better than I'd hoped. As the co-signer and guarantor, I had significant legal standing. More importantly, because I'd been paying the rent directly to the landlord for 8 consecutive months, documented through bank transfers and detailed receipts Stephen had provided, I had a strong argument that I was the de facto tenant, the actual responsible party. I called Thomas Clark, a real estate attorney I'd worked with on a project years earlier, and explained the entire situation in detail. If you've been paying rent directly for that length of time, and the primary tenant has been in effective default, you have options, he said thoughtfully. Depending on the specific lease terms and local regulations, you could potentially initiate termination proceedings yourself. It's not typical, but it's certainly not unprecedented either. What would that look like? I asked. 30 days notice to the landlord that you're withdrawing as guarantor and terminating your financial involvement completely, he explained. The landlord can then decide whether to work with the primary tenant independently or terminate the lease for lack of qualified financial backing. Given what you've told me about her payment history, I'd bet on the latter. I had Thomas draft a formal letter that very afternoon. Then I called the landlord directly. His name was Stephen Morrison. 62 years old, managed a portfolio of 12 rental properties near the state campus. He dealt with Vanessa's payment issues and behavioral problems from the very beginning. "Mr. Chen, I appreciate the call," he said when I explained the situation. "Frankly, I've been dreading this conversation for months now. Your niece has been extremely challenging to work with." "How so?" I asked, though I suspected I knew. "Consistently late payments before you took over, multiple noise complaints from neighbors, a party about 6 months ago that caused significant damage to the common areas," he listed. "The only reason I haven't terminated her lease is because you've been so reliable. You're the one who's actually made this tenancy work at all." "I'm withdrawing my financial support," I said clearly. "Effective immediately. She can either qualify on her own, which I seriously doubt she can, or you can proceed with termination." Stephen was quiet for a long moment. "I'll need something in writing from you and your attorney." "I'll have my attorney send it today," I promised. "And you understand what this means?" he asked carefully. "I understand exactly what it means," I said. 30 days notice. Standard termination procedures. She'll need to find somewhere else to live. I could hear him typing something on his end. "I'll process the paperwork this afternoon. She'll receive formal notice within 48 hours. "Thank you, Stephen," I said. "Mr. Chen, for what it's worth," he said quietly, "I have 2 daughters myself. If someone did to them what you've described, what your niece did to your marriage, I'd do exactly the same thing." I sent one simple text to Vanessa that afternoon: "Your lease ends next month. I'd start packing if I were you." She didn't respond for 6 hours. I imagine she spent that time trying to figure out if I was serious, if this was some kind of bluff. Calling Stephen to verify. Calling Michelle in a panic. Maybe calling the university housing office desperately trying to find alternatives. Then my phone exploded. 16 texts in 45 minutes. 4 missed calls. A voicemail where she was sobbing, actually sobbing, claiming she didn't mean it, that she was just joking around, that it was all supposed to be harmless. "I was just messing around, Uncle Ethan," one text read. "I didn't think Jennifer would actually tell Sarah. I thought it would be funny, like a prank. Please, please, please don't do this. I'll apologize to both of you. I'll do anything you want. Just don't take my apartment away." I read every single message, listened to every single voicemail. Then I put my phone down and didn't respond to any of it. There's a certain kind of person who only apologizes when consequences finally arrive. Who says, "I didn't mean it," when what they actually mean is, "I didn't expect to get caught." Who cries and begs not out of genuine remorse, but out of pure fear. Vanessa was that person. Had always been exactly that person. The apologies weren't real. They were just another manipulation tactic, another attempt to make the problem disappear without actually changing anything, without accepting responsibility. I wasn't playing that game anymore. Not with her. Not with anyone. Michelle called that night, and I knew it was going to be bad before I even answered. "What did you do?" she screamed. I held the phone away from my ear. Even at arm's length, her voice was a physical force, sharp and cutting. "You can't do this to her. She has finals coming up in 2 weeks. She's 3 semesters from graduating. Where is she supposed to go? You're ruining her entire life over a stupid mistake." I waited patiently until she finished, let the silence stretch out for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then I said exactly what she'd said to me when I'd called about Sarah, throwing her own words back at her. "She's just dramatic. She'll figure it out." "This isn't funny, Ethan," Michelle hissed. "Neither was my wife crying in our kitchen because your daughter told elaborate lies about me to destroy my marriage," I said coldly. "Neither was 11 years of trust nearly shattered because Vanessa thought it would be funny to accuse me of having an affair. Neither was. She didn't mean." "Stop," I interrupted sharply. "Stop right there." I could hear my own voice getting harder, colder, more controlled. "Every single time Vanessa does something terrible, you say she didn't mean it. She didn't mean to get Mr. Harrison suspended. She didn't mean to destroy Ashley Bennett's life. She didn't mean to accuse Richard of abuse. She just keeps not meaning things, and people keep getting hurt, and you keep making excuses for her." "She was young," Michelle protested. "She made mistakes. She's 21 years old," I said. "Old enough to vote. Old enough to sign a lease. Old enough to drink legally. Old enough to understand that actions have consequences. You've spent her entire life protecting her from those consequences, and this is exactly what you've created." Michelle was crying now, her voice breaking. "You can't do this. You can't punish her like this." "I'm not punishing her, Michelle," I said calmly. "I'm just stopping my support. Those aren't the same thing. She can find another apartment. She can get a job like everyone else. She can take out loans like every other college student in America. What she can't do is live rent-free on my money while actively trying to destroy my family." "She's family too," Michelle sobbed. "No," I said firmly. "Family doesn't do what she did. Family doesn't try to blow up marriages for entertainment. Family doesn't make up detailed lies to hurt people who've done nothing but help them selflessly." I took a deep breath, steadied myself. "Here's what's going to happen, Michelle. Vanessa's lease terminates at the end of the month. She can figure out her living situation on her own. If she reaches out to me again, I won't respond. If you keep defending her behavior instead of holding her accountable for once, I won't respond to you either. Ethan, we're done. This conversation is over." I hung up. Extended family chaos. The next 4 weeks were absolute chaos. Michelle mobilized the entire extended family against me, launched a full campaign. She called our mother, our aunts, our cousins, everyone she could think of. She painted me as a heartless monster who was destroying a young woman's life over a silly joke, conveniently leaving out all the crucial details. Aunt Caroline called to tell me I should be deeply ashamed of myself, that family forgives. Cousin Brandon sent a long Facebook message about the importance of forgiveness and second chances, quoting scripture. Our mother called crying, begging me to reconsider, saying that I was tearing the entire family apart with my stubbornness. I patiently explained the situation to each of them. Told them exactly what Vanessa had done, the calculated nature of it. Showed them the text messages, the proof I'd meticulously gathered, the pattern of destructive behavior that stretched back years. Some of them understood eventually. Most didn't want to. "She's just a kid," Aunt Caroline said dismissively. "Kids make mistakes. That's part of growing up." "She's 21, I repeated for what felt like the 100th time. "How many more lives does she get to destroy before we stop calling them mistakes? When does accountability begin?" No answer. Just uncomfortable silence. Vanessa showed up at my door twice during those final 4 weeks. The first time she was crying, mascara running dramatically down her face, voice trembling, the whole calculated performance. She begged me to reconsider, promised she'd apologize sincerely to Sarah, swore on everything she'd never do anything like this again. I didn't open the door. Just watched her through the peephole until she finally gave up and left, shoulders slumped in defeat. The second time she was furious, showed her true colors. She pounded on the door violently, screamed that I was ruining her life, called me names that would have made our grandmother weep. She said I was vindictive, cruel, heartless. I still didn't open the door, but I did record the whole thing on my Ring doorbell camera. Documentation, just in case she escalated further. Sarah and I talked about it every night during those 4 weeks. About Vanessa, about Michelle, about what this meant for our relationships with the rest of the family, about whether we were doing the right thing. Sarah was angry, but not at me. At the situation, at the fact that someone had tried to destroy what we'd built together over a decade. I keep thinking about what would have happened if Jennifer hadn't felt guilty, Sarah said one night, her voice quiet. If I'd never found out it was Vanessa, would I have believed the lie forever? Would we be getting divorced right now? You would have found out eventually, I said. The truth always comes out somehow. Does it? She asked. Mr. Harrison never got his reputation back. That girl Ashley probably still has people who believe the lies about her. Sometimes the truth doesn't come out fast enough to matter. She was right, as usual. Sometimes it doesn't. But this time it had, and Vanessa was going to live with the consequences for once in her life. Move-out day was a Saturday. I didn't plan to go, didn't want to make a scene, didn't want to give Vanessa or Michelle any ammunition to paint me as vindictive or cruel. But something made me drive past the apartment complex that afternoon. Some deep need to see it with my own eyes, to witness the consequence so it felt real and final. Vanessa was in the parking lot, loading garbage bags filled with her belongings into the back of Michelle's old Camry. Her roommate Rebecca, a girl I'd met once at a family gathering, was standing on the second-floor balcony with her arms crossed, watching with an expression I couldn't quite read. Vanessa looked exhausted, defeated, smaller somehow than I remembered. She looked up as my car slowly passed. For just a second, we stared directly at each other through the window. I saw recognition flash in her eyes, then something else. Anger maybe, or shame, or some complicated combination of the two. I didn't stop, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge her. I just kept driving forward. Last I heard, Vanessa's sleeping on Michelle's couch indefinitely. The apartment she'd had, the one I'd furnished completely, that I'd paid for faithfully for 2 years, that had been her comfortable home, went to someone else just a week after she moved out. Stephen found new tenants almost immediately. College towns are like that. High demand, quick turnover. Vanessa dropped 2 classes because she couldn't handle the exhausting commute from Michelle's place, which is 45 minutes from campus in rush hour traffic. Her academic advisor, I heard this through cousin Brandon, who's apparently the family's designated information broker now, told her she might not graduate on time anymore. She might need to take an extra semester, which she absolutely can't afford, which Michelle certainly can't afford either. She's apparently looking for a job now. Retail probably, or food service. The kind of work she's always looked down on, always assumed she was too good for, too educated for. Michelle still hasn't spoken to me directly. Neither has Aunt Caroline, or cousin Brandon, or most of the extended family. They've chosen their side, and I've been effectively written out of the family story. That's fine. I can live with that reality. But here's the thing about consequences that most people don't understand. They don't require other people's approval to be valid. I didn't pull Vanessa's lease to be vindictive. I didn't do it to punish her, though punishment was certainly richly deserved. I did it because actions have to mean something. Because spending $45,000 to help someone, only to have them try to destroy your marriage, has to have a consequence beyond a tearful apology and an empty promise to do better next time. Vanessa spent her entire life learning that she could hurt people without real repercussions. That tears and excuses would always be enough to escape accountability. That someone, usually Michelle, would always step in to shield her from the results of her choices. I was that person for 2 years. I funded her comfortable life while she built an impressive resume of destruction. A teacher's career ruined. A girl's reputation destroyed. A stepfather's family torn apart. And finally, my marriage nearly destroyed. No more. The money stopped. The protection stopped. The consequences finally arrived. And maybe, just maybe, she'll learn something from it. Maybe she'll realize that the world doesn't work the way Michelle taught her it worked, that you can't keep setting fires and expecting someone else to put them out, that actions have meaning. Or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll just find new people to manipulate, new situations to exploit, new lies to tell. Some people never change, no matter what. But that's not my responsibility anymore. Sarah and I are fine now. Better than fine, actually. The experience brought us closer together in unexpected ways, forced us to talk about things we'd been avoiding, reminded us why we chose each other in the first place. We're looking at houses again. The money I'm not sending to Vanessa every month goes into savings now, rebuilding what we depleted. We're almost back to where we were before I agreed to help Michelle. We talk about the future more than we used to. About kids, maybe starting a family. About what we want the next decade to look like. About building something that's truly ours. We don't talk about Vanessa much anymore. She's become a cautionary tale, a story we'll tell someday to explain why boundaries matter, why helping family has limits. Michelle sends me messages sometimes, through our mother mostly, never directly. Says Vanessa's sorry. Says she's changed this time, really changed. Says she wants to make things right. I don't respond. Not because I'm holding a grudge, not because I want to punish anyone. But because I've learned to recognize the pattern now. The tears, the promises, the cycle of destruction and forgiveness that enables the next round of destruction. Some cycles have to be broken. I broke mine. My sister called me dramatic when I first told her what Vanessa had done. She was right in a way. The whole thing was intensely dramatic. The elaborate lie, the calculated manipulation, the tears and screaming, the 4 weeks of family warfare. But here's what Michelle never understood, what she still doesn't understand. Drama cuts both ways. Vanessa thought she could create chaos without consequence. Thought the drama would always flow in one direction, outward toward the people she targeted, while she remained safely untouched at the center of it all. She was wrong. I didn't fight her. Didn't argue or negotiate or try to convince anyone of anything. I just stopped participating. Withdrew my support. Let gravity do the rest. And now she's living the drama she created. Every single day waking up on her mother's couch. Every day commuting 45 minutes to classes she can barely keep up with. Every day living with the consequences of thinking she could hurt people without cost. That's not revenge. That's just physics. That's just the natural law of cause and effect finally being allowed to function. She can be dramatic on a park bench. The lease is terminated.